2 weeks, okay? This training session will not work if we are not interactive as a group. It's a small group. There's only 13 of us and 5 to 6 facilitators. So please, I'm gonna ask you guys that you be interactive, receptive, and pay attention. And the biggest rule for me here is that we are all learning. I'm learning. You guys are learning. We're learning from each other. So please, let's respect each other as we learn. No question is stupid or dumb. No question is too big, too small. And so as you learn, we want to make sure that this. So why are we here? We're going to talk briefly about advancing cervical cancer prevention in Ghana. So we have 4 objectives today from this lecture. We're going to understand the global health problem of cervical cancer. We are going to talk about what the World Health Organization and different international organizations feel countries should do, really our region in northern Ghana. All right, so the global problem. So, cervical cancer is one of the most prevalent gynecologic malignancies worldwide. 500,000 new cases are diagnosed each year, 500,000. Of those cases, 85% occur in low and middle income countries, and the majority occur in Africa. So this is a huge burden of disease for young women. So dark purple is where the burden is the worst. So look at Africa, right? So we are a continent, very dark purple, yes, that other parts of the world are also affected, but really very, very, very deep. These statistics are insane, truly, it's crazy. And I hope that in 20 years, when we're giving this course to new midwives, we're gonna be able to change some of these numbers. But 9 out of 10 new cervical cancer cases occur in low and middle income countries. One of the things that makes Africa as a continent have high rates of cervical cancer is also the high rates of HIV. So when women have HIV, they are 6 times more likely to develop cervical cancer. So again, we are as a continent conflicted because we have high rates of HIV and now high rates of cervical cancer. Next. So let's think about Ghana and some of what we see in Ghana. So first point I want to make, our data out of Ghana is actually very limited. We don't have a national cancer registry. Even the census doesn't collect some of this data. So the data that we do have is from small reports and really out of central Ghana and south Ghana. But what we know is that most concerning is that Ghana currently has 12.6 million women who are at risk of developing cervical cancer. These are good statistics to know as you start to learn about this problem. But something that I want to highlight, if you are a woman, and you've been diagnosed with cervical cancer, you have a 61% chance of dying from the disease that same year. That's crazy, right? What does that tell us? That we are diagnosing women very late because there's no cervical cancer screening, right? And this is actually very recent data out of Ghana. I wish we had more data out of northern Ghana. We currently do not, but I think we can all say we all live and work here. Things are so much worse here. So all of these statistics are probably doubled, if not tripled. But we want to change that, starting here with this group. All right? Something to also remember is that less than 3% of eligible women 18 the WHO came together with all of these partners, and they had a very big meeting. It was over a few days, and there was a Director General's call to action to eliminate cervical cancer. The world cannot ignore this problem anymore. So this was a good first step in 2018 to come together and say, okay, there's a global problem, what do we do? And so if we think about, from this meeting, a few key things came out, and I'll talk through each things. So if we want to target primary prevention, so primary prevention meaning vaccination. That's the way to have primary prevention of cervical cancer. You can start at 9 to 15 years old. Girls and boys are appropriate. Now, it is very difficult in some countries to get the HPV vaccine, but this, if it's available, you can target, as you can see, children. When we think about young women and we think about precancer and cancer, we talk about secondary prevention, which is what we're here these next 2 weeks to do and learn. Secondary prevention is through screening, okay? And then tertiary prevention is treatment of invasive cancer, and that's at any age, but we usually see cancer start to happen here. Okay, next. So these are some projections that I think are important to consider. So if we continue how we're doing, we're gonna lower our rates of cervical cancer, not that much. Look at this line is not dropping so much. If we can have intensive vaccination efforts, some countries like India,